My name is Janice Goldberg, and I'm the director and co-author, along with Sue Bigelow, of Rose-Colored Glass. Rose-Colored Glass was originally performed live and in person in Eureka, California, which is way up in the Redwoods, at the Plays in Progress Theater, where Sue Bigelow was the artistic director. The original play was done in 1996, and it came about partly because Sue's grandparents owned a little deli on the south side of Chicago in the 1930s, which intrigued her greatly. And it also came about partly because on Sue's second trip to New York City, we were walking down 7th Avenue, passing the old Carnegie Deli, and Sue was falling a few steps behind. And I kept turning around to make sure she was okay, that she hadn't gotten lost, she hadn't gotten sidetracked by the smell of the pastrami or the guy selling sunglasses in the suitcase, and also just to watch out for her. Who knew that would be part 2 of the genesis of the play, which will make a little more sense in a minute. We have since done the play in New York, and it was published by Samuel French, and subsequently it has had productions all over the US and in Prague. But this is a first, with Ripple Effect Artists as a radio drama. It feels sort of like it's come full circle. If you were listening in the 1930s to entertainment, you would have been listening to the radio. So I kind of like that connection. Anyway, in doing the research for the show, and the show is meticulously researched, I would say, in a pre-Google world, we watched microfilm, we read old magazines, documents, telegrams, newspapers, books, and we talked to many people. And we came to realize just how unaware and often unconcerned people were of what was going on in Europe in the 1930s, especially when it came to the plight of the Jews. Sue Bigelow and I became aware of the bureaucracy, American apathy, and the immigration laws that wound up affecting millions of people. Yes, these are political issues, but they're also personal. Borders, walls, even alleys can divide not only countries, but people. And not only just people, but folks with families and loved ones. These are the things that make the play still so relevant and resonant today. But for me, where the real story lies and where the continued reflection of life in the United States still resonates strongly is in the relationship between Lady O'Reilly and Rose Fleischman, 2 women who live across an alley from each other in Chicago in 1938, both immigrants, both widows, both running their respective businesses relatively successfully, a deli and a pub, both steeped in their faiths, but who have spent years assiduously avoiding each other due to a deep-seated mistrust, distrust, dislike perpetrated originally by their dead husbands. But Lady O'Reilly has a secret weapon that she doesn't even realize she has or needs, her 13-year-old granddaughter, Peg, who she's raising. An innocent kid who just happens to adore Mrs. Fleischman, and who for the life of her cannot figure out why these 2 women shouldn't be friends. And so Peg sets out on a mission. And that leads to the real story, the heart of the play. How 2 women overcome their prejudices by reaching across an alley, by being brave enough to open their kitchen doors a tiny crack, having enough faith to let each other in, to take that first step. At the end of Act 1, Rose and Lady stand shivering in the alley. It's Christmas time, 1938. And when they turn to go in their respective kitchens, Lady turns to look back at Rose, but Rose is already gone. And so Lady starts to go into her kitchen. And then Rose reappears and looks for Lady. Lady doesn't see her, so Rose goes back into her kitchen. And then Lady stops and turns back to look for Rose. And Peg says, my grandmother had spent her life looking behind her, keeping track of my grandfather, my father, me, and the pain. The very thing that made her strive onward was also the thing she kept looking over her shoulder at her. And I think Mrs. Fleischman needed someone who cared enough to look back at her. Some of us extend our hand out, and some of us are the ones who need to be reached out to. But the important thing is someone is brave enough to reach first. Someone who has faith to crack open that door and let someone in.